This is a poem that I wrote of Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of the sum of mystery, but that mystery has made him possibly one of the greatest men in history. For instance, how he defeated people who came at him with violence, without guns or sticks, but just with silence. A man hard to understand to some people, it seemed, until they found the meaning to his last dream. A man who didn't care for your color, only for your loving one another. He even walked through the streets of Alabama asking for love while being beat down with a hammer, shot down by a man with a problem mind because he must not have known he was killing one of a kind. I know his body is dead, but I know his spirit lives on, still leading us to right from wrong. I know his thoughts are blowing in the wind, landing on someone's head, making them comprehend that the real purpose for his march was to cleanse some people's hearts. When he lived, I was too young to understand, but even then I knew he was a great man. To hear his voice is sweeter than when birds sing, and it makes me feel so good when he says, "Let freedom ring." He could have stopped and went his own way, but I wonder what this world would be like today. A man who had heaven in his eyes. Yes, I'll bet he's in heaven, sitting by God's side. Well, Mr. King is gone, but he's not in the past, because I can still hear the ring in my ear. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Thank you, Brother Jenny Hollinshed, for that.
It's my great honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to MaConGA. This is our very first podcast filmed here in Macon, Georgia. We're here at the historic Douglas Theater, and we're so thankful about the rich history here that we have in our community. And we're about to have some honest conversations and get you involved in the process. So I want to invite Ms. Tia Lockhart to come up. Part of why we're doing this is we had a survey engaging our community of things that we need to do. I am also the president of the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses, one of the co-founders with Mr. Alex Habersham, which you'll get a chance to hear from him later. But in our coalition, we want to empower our community to know things. So instead of me saying, Tia did a survey, and can you tell us some about the survey you did?
Yes, ma'am. So the survey that we did, it was for the founding members of the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Business. It really, the intention behind it was to gather insights in what the coalition was doing right, what the members felt like the coalition could do better, in reference not only to the coalition, but into the general community as well. So I have some of the broader implications of 4 of the key findings that I found from the survey. So number 1 was economic empowerment is a collective priority, but barriers remain. The implication was that without addressing historical disinvestment, discriminatory lending practices, and resource disparities, Black businesses, and by extension, the Black community, will continue to struggle with wealth building and sustainability. Number 2, the fight for economic justice is also a fight for policy change. This implies that the Black community must engage in civic action, advocating for better policies, fair funding distribution, and accountability in local and state governments. Without systemic change, economic empowerment will remain limited to individual success stories rather than a collective shift in economic power. The third finding was that knowledge and skill gaps must be addressed for true economic mobility. There were two implications with this finding. Number one being that Black communities must prioritize intergenerational wealth education, ensuring that young entrepreneurs and aspiring business owners have the tools, knowledge, and mentorship to break cycles of economic instability. The second point is that there is also a need for more culturally competent training programs that address the unique challenges Black business owners face, such as systemic bias in financial institutions and access to growth capital. The final finding was that Black economic empowerment must be community-centered. This implied that economic development must be community-driven, ensuring that Black businesses give back, create local job opportunities, and reinvest in Black neighborhoods. Without a holistic approach, the cycle of economic extraction where dollars leave the Black community without returning will continue to undermine collective progress. So the data underscores the urgent need for local and a regional push for equitable funding and capital access, stronger policy influence in economic decision-making, widespread financial and entrepreneurial education, and intentional reinvestment in Black communities. So those were the findings, and then we also have a couple surveys. There are some QR codes along the walls if you all want to engage in those surveys, and we'll be getting those out to the community as well. It's a Black consumer survey as well as a Black business owner survey. If you're a Black business owner, feel free to take both surveys because you are also a consumer.
This is the first time us really doing this in the community, and we need your feedback. We'll be sending it out on social media, through the Making Black pages, through a lot of our partners, and I want to thank Tia for your hard work on that. And that's kind of like the basis of why we're here. The people you're going to meet today are some of the movers and shakers who are in the trenches making this happen, and we want you to know who they are so you can partner with them, support them, so we can have a better 2025. So thank you, Tia, for all your hard work.
Thank you so much, Cherise.
Now, I'm not doing this by myself. I have the most illustrious co-host. Illustrious, and I'm gonna say it. Yes, Dr. Shelton Land. He is the brains behind the Douglas Theater and so many things, and he is a servant leader, and I'm so thankful that he's partnering with me for this podcast. This is our first together. Hopefully it won't be our last. So let's welcome to the stage, Dr. Shelton Land.
It hit you a little different. But thank you for your kind words, Cherise, and it is just a pleasure to be here and to host this here at the Douglas Theater. And I'm not the person behind the Douglas, but I'm the person kind of like running the Douglas now. And so, and it's amazing, and I tell people when we sit here and you think about this cultural touchstone that is the Douglas Theater, it's a place where ideas are birthed, cultivated, and shared. And it was started by Mr. Douglas, whose birthday is actually in Black History Month, which is February the 17th. But you think about what he did in 1921 during a time of intense segregation, racial segregation, and how him and his wife, Fannie Applin Douglas, who her story has been kind of like overshadowed by his, because she ran the theater for 31 years after he passed in 1940. It was during her time and her era where you got the Otis Reddings and the James Browns, Little Richard, and she kept the culture alive and she kept the legacy active, but it was through both of their hard work, I think, and I always called them my Bonnie and my Clyde. And so, but he created this illustrious theater right here, just as a safe space where African Americans could thrive, can feel safe. But it was more than just an entertainment venue. It was a venue where people could come and hear about the news. Because think about it, back in 1921, everyone didn't have television. It was radio back then. You had the technology then was the railroad system. So people would come, and we were Central Georgia. We were central to everything. And so this space where people would come, catch the news, find out what was going on. He owned a lot of businesses. So when you say black businesses, he was a black businessman. And so was she. She was a black businesswoman. But when you just think about the Douglas, and like I said, Mr. Douglas, Mrs. Douglas, they have their legacy, but the Douglas Theater itself as a venue has its history and its legacy. Everybody that attends and that comes in, I tell them that you are now part of history. Because this is history. It's our history. It's the community's history. It was built on the shoulders of black people. But to keep that going when you move forward, it was from the likes of folk like Jimmy Mills Jr., Mr. George Muhammad, you had Miss Brenda Humas, Charles Howard, long-standing board members who really fought to keep this as a part of our community here in Central Georgia. And that's what makes it so special. You know, we can go on and on and on because you're talking about 105 years, 104 years of history that is no way you can compile it in just 5 or 10 minutes. But I always like to give that overview and to say, when you come here, think about what a cultural treasure you're a part of, what it means to the community. Embrace the history, embrace the culture, because our culture is our superpower. No, you say black is our superpower.
Black is our superpower.
But our culture is our superpower, and part of it started here, right here at the Douglas, where when black people had nowhere else to go, they could come here. And so that's why it's so important. And I'm so happy that you're doing the podcast here.
So we're part of history.
Yes, you are.
First podcast here. I'm super stoked. Can you just tell us some celebrities or artists who have come through the doors of the Douglas?
Well, there's been a lot of artists. We can go, like I said, all the way back to the Otis Reddings. You can go back to the James Browns. You can go back to the Little Richard. You can go to the Keith Sweats if you want to come up to date. Music Soul Child. We have a lot of regional artists like your Ken Trimmins, your Ken Fords. It's a lot of folk here. And now as we move into this phase of 100 years and beyond, and because I've been here going on 2 years now, we're now moving into, our slogan is always a place for good shows, but we're moving towards, we're about to be the Showtime of the South. And so we want to be more than always a place for good shows, because you got to evolve. And so we are Showtime. We host various shows. It's not just theater, it's live music, it's films. People have birthday parties here. People have workshops, people have seminars, talk shows, whatever you want to have here. And so we are a true Showtime of the South. And when you think about all the celebrities that come through here or have been through here, it just amazes you, especially on this original stage. You can see the beautiful structure of just the carvings, and was done across, from the African diaspora, and had the people come in, like you see the blackface, the chains, and the breaks in the chains that represent freedom. And so when you think about freedom, and you ask me where artists come here, I think the artists felt free, and I want people when they come here to feel free to do that, because that's what art is. Art is freedom, it's expression. So again, we can go from the Otis to the James Browns to the Little Richards. We can go to the Bessie Smith, the Ma Rainey's, a lot of people. We can come up to the Keith Sweats, to the Music Soul Childs, to the Ken Fords. It's just a lot of different people have performed here. And people are now, as we're building it back up and turning more outward, people are now knocking at the door and wanting to come back in.
And I think collectively, as we know in this history, we need to do a better job in advocating and being cheerleaders for the Douglas Theater. So thank you so much for having a podcast now.
Yeah.
Filmed here at the Douglas Theater. So with that being said, I think we have some guests.
Yes, we do. So, as Tia mentioned, part of the podcast and meeting those folk. And so the first round of guests, in this segment, we would like to invite folk up, Mr. Alex Habersham. Y'all applaud when they come.
Yeah. The GOAT.
A celebrity himself. Look at it. What I tell you, celebrity.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Miss Aisha Allen. All right, Aisha. Thank you, Mr. Habersham.
Mr. Brandon Harris.
Yep. And Mr. Joe Booz. All right. joining us for the first segment. All right. How you doing, my brother? All right. So we actually have a microphone for each.
You can turn your mics on.
Yeah. Now, we do have enough of those in the Douglas. We don't have to share.
Well, with that being said, we want to know, as you can see with these powerful people up here, we have a lot of organizations led by blacks or created by blacks, and I want them to tell their story as well. So, ladies first, Miss Aisha.
Well, thank you, Sharice and Dr. Land. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am Aisha Ellen. I am the Executive Director.
Is it on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Talking to
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay. I'm Aisha Ellen, and I'm the Executive Director of Keep Macon Be It Beautiful. And for those who may not be familiar with Keep Macon Be It Beautiful, we're an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. We're an environmental-friendly nonprofit organization, so we focus on all things beautiful, as far as keeping our streets clean and clear of litter, but also having green space and beautifying our community. But a little unknown Black history fact, maybe to some, is I'm actually the first Black executive director of Keep Macon Be It Beautiful. And thank you. And we're a 50-year organization, so it's just a pleasure to be able to serve in this role. I've always been a servant leader, and so I have an opportunity now in my current role to actually be able to serve throughout the entire Macon Be It community.
She's also award-winning. Can you tell them a little bit about your award?
Well, thank you. It's hard talking about yourself, though. But last year, I was selected to be the affiliate leader, or the executive director, should I say, of the year for the state of Georgia through Keep Georgia Beautiful.
Okay.
So that's definitely a very proud moment. I've only been in my role now going on 3 years, so to get that type of recognition in such a short period of time was it was really it was a good feeling.
Now, while we're going to the GOAT, I want you to think now, because we're going to have some discussion, how, as a Black community, we can support you in what you're doing. So kind of think about that as we transition to the GOAT, Mr. Alice Habersham. You can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, the first thing I want to do is to congratulate the two of you for putting this initiative together.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, I think one thing that we are missing is that everything starts with an idea. And in order to make a difference and to do some things differently, one has to have an idea, but he or she needs to bring that idea into fruition and implementation. So this started with an idea, and the mere fact that it's happening brings it to fruition. What has been really bothering me, frankly, over the last few weeks is, I don't know how many of you saw it, but, you know, there was a email chain and a text chain going around that says, don't watch the inauguration. And, you know, I got 6 of them from different people. And I guarantee you that information spread throughout the country. So if, in fact, we've got a mechanism to impart information that spreads throughout the country, why couldn't we do it earlier? Mm-hmm. You know, why couldn't we do the same kind of thing to show that, you know, we need to vote? Why can't we do the same kind of thing to indicate that we're in a position, we're in a help ourselves situation. So I just wanted to bring that up because that needs to be done, and that's a way to impact, influence, and motivate the entire community, is just come up with an initiative, much like what you all have done with this, and then let's try to get people to support Black businesses and things of that nature. And I don't, need to say a whole lot about myself. But what I'm
Yes, you
going to
do,
say,
because we're going to be sharing this outside of Central Georgia, and people need to know who Alex C.
I'm not trying to
Habersham
say
is.
I'm international. Don't be dropping. Okay. Well, my name is Alex Habersham. I'm LJ's uncle. And I published the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages, which is the directory of African American businesses for Central Georgia. And my mission at the time of conceptualization was to provide a vehicle, a self-help vehicle, so individuals could spend money in our own community. In other communities, money stays about 18 days, and we are lucky in the black community if it stays 18 minutes. And it's important, because now is the time, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time where we're going to have to utilize whatever resources we have to advance our own community. I don't need to repeat all the forces we've got against us that's happening every day, every hour, and every minute. But there's something we can do to help ourselves and to address the problems that we're having, and we can make a significant difference. And one avenue from which we can make a difference is income and revenue. Income and revenue. African Americans or consumers in Central Georgia spend $3.5 billion a year. Joe Booz ought to be a millionaire. Brandon ought to be a millionaire. Aisha ought to be a millionaire.
Keep on.
Yeah, and
Get everybody.
yeah, everybody, yeah,
Everybody's
But the point is, if in fact, and God knows I've been trying, but I recommend and suggest. But if in fact we can create the kind of conscientiousness where whenever possible, go to the Black Pages or any other resource and say, hey, I need a haircut. I ain't going to the mall. I'm going to go to Brandon. Hey, I need a consultant to help me get wealthy. I'm going to go to Joe. Hey, I got $35 extra this month. I'm going to invest in the Douglas. So that's what the purpose is, and I just admonish and beg everybody that we have got to do a better job utilizing our economic resources. I publish the Black Pages, and I want you to use it to go to the website. But whether it's the Black Pages or not, I'm scared of AI. AI might run everybody out of it. AI might start cutting hair. We need to be careful. Brandon. But that's what I'm hoping and praying that we do, that we utilize those resources that we have to help ourselves and to support each other. And we need to get rid of these attitudes and understand that we are in a situation where if we don't help ourselves, then we're going to go back to Jim Crow. So that's what I'm about. I published the Black Pages in an effort to uplift the African American community. And I get some corporate support. They ought to support it because we're making them rich. So they ought to help us to identify African American businesses, and you ought to help those businesses by shopping with them because, some of them got problems, but not all of them. And then maybe if we spent more money with them, they would have fewer problems. So let's uplift the community in a lot of ways, but particularly through our economic and spending power.
That is why I call you the GOAT.
He is truly the GOAT. Yes, he is. He made some good statements there about the economic impact. And a lot of people, we use those words and those terms, economics, impact. But sometimes we have to move people, in my mind, from just knowing it to understanding it to the doing. So because you can know about something, but do you truly understand it? Because you can't even do it until you truly understand it. But he just made a good point. And when we think about that, we think about businesses and business owners and black business owners. And so we're going to turn it over to Brandon so you can tell us about yourself and what you do in your business there. Because who else to talk about black business than the owner of Greenwood Bottom? The mayor.
The mayor.
Yeah, the mayor.
Yes, my name is Brandon Harris. I am sitting up here on behalf of Macon Black Culture. I am the co-chair. We concentrate our efforts in occupying spaces and showing Macon a great representation of culture. Me myself, I have been in business for probably since I was 15, 14, 13. Always getting product and selling, buy, sell. So I think that has been with me forever. But I also have a great affinity for my community and seeing my community grow and seeing the ones next to me grow. And just kind of to touch on what the GOAT said, we definitely got to make sure that we have a seat at the table because we got to have knowledge. We got to have, but if we got to have the money. And what can we can't move without the money, just in my truthful opinion. And I think what we have to concentrate on is having a plethora of good, healthy relationships with each other. We got to concentrate on knowledge, and then there's the money, I sit up here on behalf of Macon Black Culture. I do have the first black-owned shopping center in Macon, Georgia.
All right.
And really, those are just a play on words, because little be known, my grandfather owned a barbershop, but and it was a restaurant and a pager business. Right, I just don't never think he said plaza, right? So I think about that all the time, right? And it's also important to, if you don't see it, you can't achieve it. I sit here because I was introduced to different things. I seen different things, and I think, so when I seen the opportunity to create a shopping plaza next to our barbershop, it was a no-brainer, and probably because I seen it. And it's really so, and I think that's why we have to occupy spaces and do our best when we occupy them. I know it's just supposed to be an introduction, but I do like, maybe I should wait, because I know we're going to do questions and all that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Mm-hmm. But I see the wheels turning, which I like. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and move to you, Mr. Joe.
All right, first of all, thank you for this opportunity, platform.
Mm-hmm.
I want to piggyback on everything that the people up here said, because, again, economic unity is our power. I mean, whether you put money first or last, you still gonna have to get that money. I mean, that's just what it is. And what I am, my name is Joe Booz. I'm the executive director of Wealth ASAP. I've owned several businesses all my life. I grew up in a family who didn't have much, so we had to go get it. So we knew that our power and our livelihood could never come from somebody's job. Because a lot of jobs, people lose them every day. And you invest in a 401k, they barely give your money back. So I saw that a lot growing up, and I felt like, how can we keep fighting for the same thing? So when I grew up, all I wanted to know was, how do other cultures stay afloat when the world we live in is the same? So if we seek the answer to that question, their problems are no different than ours. Their situations are different. Their education is different, right? Some of the words that we grow up in our houses, in our communities, are just not used. We don't talk about investing in stocks, finances, things like that. We can sit in the living room every day and hear something about football. Our children know everything about athletes. They know nothing about investing. They know nothing about ownership. We might have a business, but we don't know how to collaborate and use this platform right here. If everybody on this stage spent money with each other's business, that money circulates, that empowers the whole stage. These are things that other communities grew up seeing. So that's what I do. I have a financial literacy course. as well, the financial literacy class, and I do it with the youth as well. Because sometimes we talk about things, but our children are the geniuses. Let's not diminish them and act like they don't understand it. They don't need to know that yet. They're a long way from credit. Why? We need to start as soon as possible. They can talk, they can understand, they can learn. So as of now, what I do is, what I'm creating now is a way for our community to get that economic unity so that we can invest in the progression of our community. So right now what I'm doing is I'm building a platform through my organization where we can do, because I own properties myself. So why would we have to not invest and have property management within our community? Some people have different outlooks on different communities. Sometimes our people, they start getting a good job, and the first thing they do, they move out there by the other culture. First thing you do, which is nothing wrong with that, because you want a safe, beautiful community to raise your children in. That's what we should all want. But we can invest back in the community we left, right? If you buy one house and you fix it up, hey, I don't want to be a landlord, but guess what? I collect the rent for you, make sure everything's straight, and now you're building wealth for your children. Like one of the first things I tell everybody that come in my class, I don't care where you work, how much money you make, you cannot work your way to wealth. You cannot leave your child your clock-in number. They have to start at the bottom. But if you build wealth, assets, things like that, you can leave to your children. So that's what I do. I teach those small principles to our community because we just haven't seen it. We own wealth, we own things, and guess what? We lost it. They know how to do those policy changes. And now they, guess what? Oh, you didn't pay the tax, you didn't cut the grass. We didn't want to do it because we were arguing about who's going to pay the taxes. They take it. Wait till it's worth little or nothing, and they sell it off. Things like that. We have accumulated wealth before, but it's been taken. And it's a process of it going over and over again. So what I do is I do teach that to the community. I do it to the youth. I do it to adults. And I try to empower our people because there is no freedom without financial freedom. There's no way around it.
That is true. That's true. That's a true statement.
You need to be Reverend Booz as well. Because you are speaking the gospel. I'm a believer. Dr. Land?
Well, you know, this is a good segue into what this conversation is about. Like, us as people, us as a community coming together, how do we engage more? You know, we can sit up here, I think we have a lot of ideas and concepts. But to me, you gotta move from concept to action. You know, we meet after the meeting, and I am a person, full disclosure, I'm not good at meeting about the last meeting. That ain't me, because I can't make the meeting in, because we keep talking and doing the same thing, and I'm just a person of action and execution. That's just the way that I operate. So I can only own me, but I try to profess that and spread that to others. And so when we think about the black community, we think about, especially like the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses. When I first heard about it, and the Douglas, they hosted something here at the Douglas, and I really got into it, with the GOAT. Y'all call him the GOAT. I just say Alex. I didn't know he was the GOAT. I say Alex. Tell me a little bit more about it. So once I got engaged in it and learned more about it, I'm like, wow, this is genius, right? So what can we do? So I guess the first question that we had that Tia said, like, what is you all's take on, you know, let's move from just a discussion to action. What can we do? Because sometimes people know the what, but they don't know the how or the how-to. We can talk about the what and the why all day, but we never really go deep into the how-to. So I think that if we think about that. So
just feel free to jump in.
Just jump in,
conversation.
I'm going to answer your question, but I want to piggyback off of what Joe said, because it reminded me of a conversation that I literally just had this morning with my son. He's 23 years old in San Diego in the military. And, you know, his whole thing is he's not coming back to Macon. And so even though I may understand a little bit, because when I was that age, that was my mindset as well, but I had to inform him or remind him, or should I say educate him, on the legacy that he comes from that was built right here in Macon. And so I don't share with a lot of people because really the opportunity never really presented itself. But the land that I live on now in North Macon was passed down to me from my grandmother, who got it from her grandfather. And her grandfather, who is my great-great-grandfather, was born an enslaved man. He wasn't a slave, but he was enslaved. And 131 years ago, I think it was like 1894, he owned at one point over 200 acres of land in North Macon, and that's the land where myself and several of my cousins still live on today. He also owned a dairy farm. Once again, this was a black man right out of a period of slavery that was able to build this legacy and then pass it down to his heirs, and I am one of the ones who is benefiting from that. And to be honest, I never thought about it as I was growing up. But, I explained it to my son in a way how it was never explained to me about that legacy. And you are a part of that legacy. A.D. Tolliver, Andrew Daniel Tolliver is his full name, was born an enslaved man, but died owning over 200 acres of land in North Macon. Some of that land, which has now been named Tom Hill Senior Junior Boulevard.
Okay.
Yep.
Little unknown Black history fact. And so, and so we have to start telling the stories and passing that down to generations so our kids can know. And so even though I understood my son's position as far as, he's loving California, but I was like, don't forget what you have here. You can stay in California if you want to, but you also got property in Macon. And for those who may be watching, who's not familiar with Macon, we all know as far as traditionally what North Macon was always considered. Like black folks didn't live in North Macon. And I always have to correct them and say, well, my folks been out there for 130 years, not just living, but owning.
Owned it.
So it's important that we also, when we know our own history, to pass it down. And my history may not be your history, but you have something that you could share, we all on this stage, that we can pass down to generations, and hopefully those messages will continue even after we're all long gone. So, but to get back to the question, though.
Listen, Aisha, you are inspiring me. Yes. Wow.
But with the partnerships and collaborations which was stated, I'm proud to say that just about everybody on this stage at some point in time I have collaborated with in some capacity. And so it's definitely important that we work together. Sharice and I can say as black women in Macon, Georgia, and trying to really be change agents in this community. Sometimes this community, the powers that be, can pit us against one another. And we have to learn how to overcome that. And so, it's just the importance of just working together and also bringing up the next generation.
Okay. And so I heard a key issue there that was like one of the key issues of learning how to work together and overcoming, I call them external barriers, and as we look for the next person, like to talk about that, as we talking about working with each other, partnering, the key issues that are facing, what are some of those key issues? And maybe we can talk about those. That was one of the questions. What are some of the key issues that we do face as a black community? I get the wealth piece. What's some of the key issues that we probably need to talk about and have courageous conversations? I think a lot of times we don't have courageous conversations.
Yes, and that's what this platform is about. We want to have some honest conversations.
Honest conversations. We ain't got to tiptoe around nothing because I don't know how to ice skate, no way. So, I'm just straight at it. I just tell people I'm just fun size, but I'm straight at it. I just woke up like this. So Brandon, yep.
I know you want to get on it.
You want to get?
No, you go first, sir.
It ain't working?
You want to correct me?
Okay.
It's on pause, yeah.
Okay.
You good.
I think that we have to reboot. Like, I think our computer, we have a virus, right? And this is the way I try to analyze it. If you go all the way back to Willie Lynch, like, we just have to just reboot and relearn and be able to reappreciate each other. When I look at you, I should be looking at my brother, or my sister, or my father. So like, I don't know, like what is the actual one to, but I think we got to just relearn. We have to relearn. And it always, like, like when we have black events, like when Mr. Muhammad does the Kwanzaa, it doesn't really make sense to me that it's not like wall to wall. It, like when we have black events, like because I don't think we understand the importance of us showing up for each other and just the pride. Like, I don't know, like we just have to we have to relearn, just kind of forget everything that we was taught and just kind of reboot our computer and kind of start over with loving each other, start over with trusting each other, because like we were taught I'm not supposed to trust booze. You know what I mean? If you just be honest. And a lot of times that resurface, and I don't even know why. I'm like, damn, I don't know if I should trust booze on this one. But it's been a learned behavior. You know what I mean? So I just think like just rebooting and starting over, knowing oneself, getting to know yourself, and then expanding on out to each other. But I that's what I always thought.
Good.
We learn, okay.
Because we're definitely in our silos, and I do want to shout out, I know they can't see it in podcast land, but Christelle Parham did the Macon Black Tech, and she had room-to-room people. When I say I am so proud of this young lady and what she's doing to bring us to the next level, with AI, it would be an understatement, and we're definitely going to bring her in, just probably with herself, just talk about it. But what you're doing with Macon Black Culture, just even that name, was it scary? Like when you said Macon Black Culture, did you get pushback? Because it was such a strong name.
I think anytime you put black on anything, Macon, like when we did Macon Black Wall Street, it's like the powers that be, like I think well, not us. Well, sometimes our counterparts have to understand a strong black man or a strong black Macon, strong black woman does not make someone else lesser. So yeah, I think it was like you know, and even you get looks when you wear your Macon black, whatever, anything black. And you know what I mean? It's people. I think they don't understand, like, we can be great and you can be great, and really Macon cannot be great until black people are great. Truthfully. You know what I mean? We're gonna forever be behind until the powers that be, or we take place, take our space, and we got to make sure that we're great and we'll push the city forward. And I think, and it's sad because this is like, you can go, and now you can go to Atlanta, you can have Atlanta black and culture or whatever, and it's not even second guessed on being something negative, or, you know what I mean? So that goes back to the reprogramming. You know what I mean? It's almost shameful to say I'm black and I'm proud, and well, not shame. It's like you may get a look like, huh? Like, what you trying to do? You trying to start? You know what I mean? So it's
Like you're a troublemaker.
for sure
Troublemaker.
for being proud of being black.
For black people too, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, me and Sharice, we were in Black Girls Run, and remember we used to just get a lot of negative.
Oh, why it gotta be black girls run? Like, you'll get all that. You'll get all that.
Yeah.
And we had so many. So the first Juneteenth parade, you know, I read the comments, and the comments was crazy. And we were just celebrating our freedom. Nothing more, nothing less. And so, like, I think that's why we have to occupy space. Shout out to Commissioner. We gotta get in these seats. We gotta, like, be able to say, hey, look, I am this, and I am black. You know what I mean? And not be taken back by it. You feel me?
This is some good conversation. So I guess before we go into the next, I don't want to say session, we want to hear from Alex, because I can tell You know, you're thinking about everything we said. You have the history. You've seen it all. How can we move forward, sir?
You dating me? I mean, like in years. Well, I kind of go back to Brandon's granddad and the role that he played and the influence that he had on the community. And as quiet as it's kept, I'm not sure that integration helped us. I'm not sure that integration helped us. Because during those days in the 50s and the 60s, I was real young now, I wasn't grown then. We shopped with each other. We knew each other. We supported each other. You know, the preachers were serious about uplifting the community. I regret to tell you that a lot of people who benefited from the movement, from integration and desegregation, turned their backs on our community. And so when the environment opened up, then you had some people who rose to the top, you know, went to work at IBM and what have you, but it was not the masses. And the original concept was that when you got up a little bit, you reach back and pull somebody else up. But somehow that did not happen. So I blame a lot of our plight on, maybe a little before me, but on my generation. Because we had and have a responsibility. You talking about first black, I can't name you all of the first black positions that I have held. And it's because of the timing. You know, first black coach and first black tax assessor and the first black this and the first black that. But I have to understand that that was on the backs of somebody else. Somebody had to do something so I could become the first. It wasn't about me. It was about, my dad was a whole lot smarter. LJ's granddad was a whole lot smarter than I am. But because of what they did to try to uplift the community, then many of us benefited, but too many of us don't realize that, you know, we got an obligation and a responsibility to kind of uplift the community, Brandon, and that's part of what happened, finally. I think something like this would help. You know why? Because just like they put on social media, don't look at the inauguration, or like they put on social media, I had pork chops for dinner last night. You know, my birthday, you know, if in fact we could create a conscientiousness that would let people know the power of information. The power of information. So if we make a commitment, and I've been thinking seriously about this, you know, by telling folks, why don't you put something that's gonna help somebody on social media, that when it's your birthday, or what kind of pork chop you had for dinner. You know, I'm serious, but if we could just get that to permeate, just like that, you'd be amazed. I bet you 3 or 4 million people saw that chain text and don't. Did y'all get it? Anybody else get it? Don't watch the inauguration? Yeah. Yeah, well, I got 8 of them. You know, everybody told me that. But if you could just kind of, and that might be an implementation since you don't like to just mess around, you know. But maybe that's something that we can do is just try to post something, you know, go vote. Look, the Douglas trying to get 1,500 people to donate $15, you know. Yep. They got that kind of campaign, and I shared it. You know, but if we could kind of be more conscientious about doing things that's gonna make a difference in the community rather than ego tripping and you know, saying, you know, they pretty, you know, them slick shoes with the orange big strings on them. But he didn't put them on Facebook, but he could. You know what I'm saying? But he would rather put something on Facebook or what have you that's gonna make a difference. That's gonna make a difference. And if we could just kind of generate, Dr. Land, if we could just kind of, maybe this could be a start,
This could be for February.
Put something positive on
challenge.
Facebook, twice a week to help somebody. You could post something and then we could share. Tell your kid something about banking and investment. Take your mama to vote. Something positive. And if we could do that, and then one thing, and finally, Joe, I used the charge for this moment, give it to you free. Okay. We are very bandwagonish. Black folk are bandwagon folk. And what that means is that, a lot of people will stand back and watch you push the bandwagon. But once it starts to roll, here they come. They jump on it. So if we could push it and get it to rolling, then they'll come, Joe, when they see us posting about you doing wealth, and when they see Brandon posting something positive about you can buy 35 pair of shoes with pink strings on it or something like that, then they'll say, well, that's a good thing. I'm gonna start posting something positive, and I'm gonna do something to make a difference. Once they see me, and I donated $15, and I shared it, and I hope that everybody see it should take him only 2 days to raise for 1,500 people to donate $15, and we ought to do it, and we ought to share it. And if we could start just posting positive things and influencing our community, because we very bandwagon, and before and then when you go and shop somewhere, you could post it. I spent my money at Scott's Pharmacy today. Take a selfie in front of Scott's. So if we could just start stuff like that and educating the community and posting stuff, then I think that we could just begin, along with what you all are doing, begin to make a difference.
That sounds like a MaConGA challenge.
Can
Yeah,
I piggyback? I know we're closing, but I want to piggyback on something too about representation and giving shout outs. So as the executive director of Keep Making Be It Beautiful, for 50 years Keep Making Be It Beautiful has done the annual Keep Making Be It Beautiful Awards. And this year we have, every year it's 2 highest awards. It's always the Carolyn Creighton Award and the William A. Ficklin Award. Well, the Carolyn Creighton Award is going to the wife of this gentleman who's sitting right next to me, Mrs. Myrtle Habersham. The person who's getting the William A. Ficklin Award, I hadn't had a chance to tell him yet, so I think I'm going to tell him now. Because the 2025 William A. Ficklin Award recipient is Brandon Harris.
Okay. Congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a good way. And, and these was a lot of valid points that we're making. And, and Joe, definitely, I love that about we don't have those conversations in our households. Now I do, because I have a nephew, I don't have kids, but since he been 10, I was like, hey, taught him how to balance a checkbook. Let's talk about savings, okay? Don't just want to be a branding, stylist, whatever you want to be. I say, go get some business administration. I need you to own it and start to build wealth and different things, so you're right. So all this is good conversations in the house, the sharing things. But as we keep the conversation moving, and we don't want to hold everybody all night long, we're going to ask our next set of guests, as you all just lay your microphone down back on the table. That's all you got to do. Look at the Lord. Touch your neighbor and say thank you. All right now. Ain't the Lord good? The Lord is good all the time. All the time. The Lord is good.
I'm going to talk about them shoes, too. I'm going to do both.
As this set of guests leaves, we just want to invite our next set of guests up to have a conversation. Y'all give them a round of applause.
Yeah.